So, Aaron, I did a thing.
Really?
I made up some Lorcana cards so that we could talk about Stitch and the shift mechanic.
Awesome, I can't wait to see them.
Okay, let's do it. Today, we're going to talk about Stitch, more specifically, the shift ability, which allows Stitch to get on the table for cheaper than his normal cost. To do this, I've created several different cards that nobody's seen before that we're going to use to illustrate this mechanic. But before we do that, Aaron, why don't you remind everybody what our color theory video said about the color orange and why we think that matters for the amber ink identity in Lorcana.
So for those of you who might have missed our color video, first we can link it below for you to check out. We linked the amber ink to the color orange based on its close association with change and movement, because orange is often affiliated with autumn. So based on that, we expect that we're going to see a lot of change and movement in the cards that are going to be in the amber ink.
So based on that, we think Stitch is the perfect color for amber, and we're going to talk about him now. So Stitch has this shift mechanic. You see it on his card, Shift 4. What that means is you're going to be able to get him out onto the table cheaper than his normal cost if you play him on top of another Stitch character. Now, this has pluses and minuses. On the upside, you can cheat him out a lot quicker. The downside is you actually have to pay that cost ahead of time because in earlier turns, you'll have had to play a Stitch card and have him on the table. We've seen abilities like this in other card games. For example, Mutate in Magic is an ability that lets you play a creature for cheaper on top of another creature. However, the range of creatures you can play it on there is broad, whereas in Lorcana, it seems you can only play one character on top of another character. Now, who knows? All characters may have versions that allow them to do this. Imagine people changing outfits or growing up. So you might be able to play a real boy Pinocchio on top of a wooden puppet Pinocchio as kind of like an evolution. Or it may be unique to several characters. So looking at Stitch, he's moderately powerful, but he's a card draw engine. So you can get a cheap Stitch down on the table early, play him mid-game, and then as you're populating your board, use it to draw cards continually. So let's take a look at the first card here. All right, so this is Experiment 626 Stitch. What you'll see is the casting cost in the corner is a little bit more expensive. And he cheats out shifts 5 instead of 4 on the previous Stitch. One thing we could see with the shift mechanic is cards that progressively get bigger. So maybe Stitch will play cheap early, and then on progressive turns, you can shift him out and get him progressively more powerful. Now what this means is on turn 5, let's assume it's a progressive resource system, and you have 5 resources on turn 5. You're getting out a creature that's valued 7 instead of one that's valued 5. So you've got an edge on your opponents. So if Stitch stays on the table, you're growing him, making him bigger, and then you have that edge.
Okay, Liam, I have so many questions. So the first one is, can you play a Stitch on top of a tapped Stitch, or whatever that the tapped equivalent is going to be in Lorcana?
So that's exerted, and I don't see why not. The rule on the card doesn't specify that it has to be not exerted, so I think you can. And then that's whether that Stitch is exerted or not when he comes into play, I'm not sure, but I'm sure the rules will clarify.
And then my other question I have immediately is, can you use the old Stitch even though you've played a new Stitch on top of him?
Most likely not. Most likely the new Stitch will replace the other one. There could be some crazy mechanic, though, where you can shift creatures from the bottom of that pile to the top of that pile. Who knows? I don't think that'll be the case, though. I think you'll just have to change it permanently on the table.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, let's check out the next one. All right, so this is Surfing Prodigy Stitch. You'll see power-wise, he's a little bit less powerful than the previous 2 we've looked at, and he's shift 3, so he gets out on the third turn potentially. To talk about his ability, though, we need to talk about evasive. The Mickey Taylor card has evasive, and what that means is characters with evasive can only be challenged by other characters with evasive. We haven't seen any other characters with evasive yet. What Stitch's ability does on Surfing Stitch is when he's on the offense, when he's challenging, he gains evasive so that he can challenge cards like Hero Mickey. This Stitch then would be used as a utility Stitch. So maybe it's not your primary go-to, but you have him in your deck and you play him if the situation dictates. So if you have a whole stable of cheap Stitch cards in your hand that can shift out, you may be able to adjust Stitch on the table to take advantage of whatever situation you're presented with, or whatever ability you need to deal with something your opponent has. So here I'm positing that shift could be used to create utility characters.
Interesting. Okay, I have to ask because I'm not a Magic player. So theoretically, I would play Surfing Stitch first because he has a casting cost of 5, and then I might go in and shift him out for Rockstar Stitch, and I'd only have to pay 4 to do that. Okay, so that would be like the strategy basically, because the Surfing Stitch is the lowest casting cost.
So that's exactly the idea. Stitch could be a progressive character where you get a cheap one in play early, and then on later turns you can cheat the other ones into play for cheaper than their normal cost, which gives you an edge on your opponent. Think of it as a down payment in earlier turns to let you get more powerful characters out later, and that gives you an edge on your opponent. This is probably my favorite Stitch. This is Loyal Friend. He shifts out for 1, you've noticed. He is not powerful at all. Casting cost of 3. But if you look at his ability, it saves other characters from banishment. So this is the same as my utility idea from earlier, where if your opponent has some sort of card that banishes in play, let's say Maleficent, who I believe banishes with her fire ability, you would then get this Stitch in quick for cheap to protect your other characters. So instead of them being banished, they would be exerted instead. So again, this Stitch isn't terribly powerful, but it could be used in 2 ways. 1, get him on the board early to allow you to shift in later turns. Or 2, you're using him later in the game when your opponent has some powerful creatures on the board to protect your other creatures. But again, it's the idea of a utility character.
I have to say, I think this one's my favorite one so far. It's so cute.
If you think this one's cute, wait till you see the alternate art that I have, which I had to put on there, even though it's sad.
Oh my gosh, it's adorable!
It is adorable. It's also sad, because if you haven't seen Lilo and Stitch 2, this is Stitch after he dies, trying to escape so that he can protect his friends. I thought this was an incredibly poignant picture, but probably too sad for the actual card.
Yeah, that actually now just like kind of gets me in the feels. I feel like I am getting in touch with like my 8-year-old self who collected Pokemon not because of anything they had to do with like any of their abilities, but because they were cute. So my brothers would get Pokemon cards and they would keep all of the powerful ones, and then I would just get all the cute ones. I think we're definitely going to be there are going to be some young girls, just young kids in general out there who are going to be living that life again with these cards if they have art as cute as the ones that you've picked out.
Let's hope so. All right, I have a couple bonus cards. I had to do it. I had to create an Angel card because you can't have Stitch without Angel, I feel like. One thing, though, I'm proposing here is that Angel, because she's the same race as Stitch, will also have the shift ability, and she'll operate very similarly. But I'm raising the idea here of synergy between characters in the game. So you can see here that her Pink Punch ability is actually pretty good. It upgrades the Stitch preview card ability, but it only works if Stitch is in play. So if Angel and Stitch are on the table together, then they each potentially become more powerful. But that's how this card works. I also thought I nailed the flavor text. Hold
up 1 second. Some couples exchange rings, some climb inside the ring. That's adorable, Liam.
Beautiful.
That is adorable.
And I also have some I have one more bonus here. I went with one more Angel. This is very similar to another Stitch that we've seen. It's just another version of the Protection Stitch. So potentially they could be the exact same creature, and you could be morphing them into whichever one you need on the table, augmenting each other throughout the game. But again, the idea is if you get these two or any shift creature or character on the table early. You can then, for fewer resources, change them around or upgrade them to make your resource use very efficient later in the game. So it's kind of a progression. So these are the ones I've created. I don't know, Aaron, which one's your favorite?
Again, the Ohana, the Loyal Friend Stitch, I think is my absolute favorite. Specifically, although the alt art is like, I love that scene, it kind of breaks my heart a little bit. So I think I'm gonna just have to go with the standard Loyal Friend Stitch is my absolute favorite. It's adorable.
Yes.
I think this is fantastic, Liam. I mean, I like looking at the cards and like zooming in. I have no idea how you overlaid the text and kept the background texture. So really good work. Really, really good work. This must be what you've been working on the last couple of days.
It was tedious. So that's it. We're going to show them all next to each other. So just to recap, you can see how the shift ability might be used. Either A, to put a down payment on the table and then upgrade throughout the game to be more efficient with the resources, or perhaps because you can be very efficient, you can switch your creatures around or shift them around to use for utility purposes, for whatever, to help with whatever strategy you need at that point in the game. I hope that this is the case, and I hope that this is how these are used. And I also hope that it's unique to several characters, because I think that would be a really unique strategy in the amber color, and if it's narrow to a few creatures rather than spread across the game. Yeah, absolutely. So which one of these is your favorite? Please drop us a comment below and like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again soon.